Grown Folks Kid Show. Oh, woohoo, yeah. Hey, how that sound?
Yo, welcome to the Grown Folks Kids Show.
Yo.
I'm your host, Dre Well, it's kind of hard to do it because, I'm on this computer. I don't want to bust the audio on this computer, but it's Dre Irvin. Okay, and who are you?
You know, I'm the man without the golden mic today, but I still got that melodious voice, the great Gunny.
Do you got Bruce Leroy in your background, man?
Bruce Leroy and showing up.
Oh, man. Oh, that's the old school. Oh, okay. And speaking of old school, because we're going to go old school, new school, and mid-school today, okay? We have our special guest. Would you guys like to introduce yourself? We'll start with you, Russell. Who are you, Russell?
Yeah, hey, well, I'm also known as Buddy Sotello, and my managing name when I used to be an independent manager for the Feds here in Northern California for about 15 years, 2000 to 2015, in places like All Pro Wrestling, which was featured in the movie Beyond the Mat, and also California Championship Wrestling, where I worked with all sorts of famous guys, everyone from John Cena on out to Bailey and Timothy Thatcher.
Oh, man.
Man.
Yeah, that man is stacked. And you did some in-ring performance here and there, right?
Yeah, as a manager, yes. I was, but I had some bumps and lumps as a manager.
All right, and then this is his tag team partner. I'm going to tell you what type of show it is, but it's his tag team partner, Mr. Ginzberg, as in Evan Ginzberg. How you doing?
Good. I was the associate producer on The Wrestler, and I acted with Mickey Rourke in his Academy Award-nominated performance. He also won the Golden Globe for The Wrestler. And we have a movie out now called 350 Days, starring Bret Hart, superstar Billy Graham, Greg Valentine, Paul Orndorff, 3 dozen legends. Worldwide distribution, and happy to be on. Thanks for having us.
Hey,
And y'all gotta watch that.
Thank you.
They gotta go watch that. That's some good stuff.
Yeah, that's good. They got to go watch it. And actually, they can see that 350 days, right?
Yes.
And they can see that on Amazon.
Amazon Prime, Tubi, all major cable systems, YouTube. You can rent it, own it, whatever. It's everywhere. It's worldwide distribution.
Well, this is our buddies from Coast to Coast. I love that name. Coast to Coast. From Frisco to New York, and now we're going to go coast to coast to up to coast.
Yes.
Northwest.
We've been down the coast. We've been on other coasts and internationally, so we're coasting along, man.
We're just coasting. We're doing our thing.
Coasting's better than COVIDing. Let's just put it that way.
I agree. No COVID.
Now, since we got wrestling producers and wrestling managers on the show, and he's got the 49ers. I'm Las Vegas, and I can't say Oakland no more. I was born in Oakland, raised in Tacoma, but we still got the Warriors down there. Until my Sonics come back, that's okay. But
don't hold your breath, by the way.
Yeah.
Hold on, we getting that brand new arena. Ooh, looks nice.
I know, but
same people did in Madison Square Garden built our arena.
To Seattle. I do think it was unfair what happened to Seattle because Seattle was a good team. The fans were really good for the Sonics, and I kind of missed that rivalry as a Warriors fan. So
it was a tragedy. That's what it was. It's straight, and we still got trauma, but that's okay. We're coming back, and we got the hockey team first. The Kraken. You heard it? Seattle Kraken.
Yes.
Kraken.
Yes.
We're gonna release the Kraken on everybody. Yeah. All right. Well,
so you need to move the Hawks up to Seattle. Nobody would notice. The Hawks were.
Oh my goodness!
No one would notice.
No. Okay, they're gonna watch Russell Cook down there today in Santa Clara. But anyways, so hey, Charles.
Yes.
We got We got 2 cool guests.
Man,
today,
right? The coolest.
We're doing the Zoom thing because we're quarantined a little bit, right? Zoom, okay. And guess what we're gonna do? We're gonna talk some wrestling. Can we talk wrestling? You guys may have some free flow, just off the cuff talk about some wrestling.
Yeah.
You guys ready?
Go for it.
Go for it?
Well, yeah, I'll say the first thing. First
Okay,
thing
go ahead.
that's on my mind.
All
And
right,
that is,
go ahead.
I want to know what your favorite memory is of Road Warrior Animal.
Oh, my favorite Road Warrior is when they had the scaffold match.
Oh,
with the
hey, that's
Midnight
mine.
Express. That was, man, that made me, I had a little fear for those men as a kid. When they threw those pumpkins down off that vignette, when they were standing up there and Iron Man was playing and they were throwing those pumpkins down. Oh, and then seeing Jimmy get kicked down, and now we know he broke his hips and legs.
Very serious.
Oh man, that was some scary. And they never had real long matches. They just came in, beat people down, then talked. And man,
Evan,
those are my favorite matches.
Dre, you're
Well, let me ask you a question because that's my favorite. Let me ask you a question. Do you think
Okay.
they can do something like that today? Bring back the scaffold match in AEW or something? The AEW, because they do the small shows. They still kind of indie style, right? You think that's something they can do today?
You really going there with me, Dre?
You know what I used to do when I was a kid? I used to like make a little paper scaffold and paper, but I got some cardboards together and cut them up and made my own little scaffold. And then I grabbed my sister's dolls and teddy bears and I put little championship belts on them, and my toys. And I used to have these scaffold matches on top of them, So, but that's one thing I remember about them. What about you there, Mr. Ginzberg?
I used to see the Road Warriors in the War Games. The War Games live.
Is that the two cages?
Against the Horsemen and JJ Dillon, and Dillon would always get the pin. He would always get pinned. Those were some great matches live.
Oh, yeah.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I'll finish it off by saying one of the first wrestling matches I saw in person was at the Cow Palace in '84, where it was a cage match with the Road Warriors and Precious Paul Ellering versus Sergeant Slaughter and the Hennings.
Oh.
And Larry the Axe and Kurt.
At the old Cow Palace. I remember watching the match at the old Cow Palace. My grandpa took me there. Oh yeah, I remember. It's good memories in there.
There's a lot of blood in that match. That match, guys bled like crazy.
A lot of blood back in all those matches.
But that was when cage matches were a real rarity in the Bay Area. You maybe got to see one or two cage matches a year at best, maybe not at all. So, the WWE didn't do very many of them, and we were in AWA territory. So,
right.
We didn't get NWA stuff. It was just EWA matches and WWF matches.
It was the same in Madison Square Garden. You would have maybe one cage match a year, and it was a big deal. It was
it was there for a purpose.
Yeah.
You had exhausted all your options on how to wrestle a person.
Exactly.
And you had to have that cage match. It was either the cage match or loser leaves town match, because you had to end the story.
Pat Patterson wrestled Backlund 4 shows in a row at the Garden. And the blow off was the cage match.
Man,
I was there for Snooker Morocco in the cage. Unbelievable.
And remember, the AWA cage matches were
the original Rock.
Closed. They weren't the walkout ones. They weren't the ones with the. I never got that with the WWE. You have the gate and the guy could walk out. I love the ones where it's all enclosed. You can't get out. That's what the real cage is about. You can't get out of the cage.
Yeah.
You have a roof on it and all that stuff, and you are just, fighting like animals in there. And that's
when they made it the blue cages, blue, red, and white cages.
Yeah, no, but they had the chain link fence ones, which just 4 solid walls.
I like those war games too. As a kid, I remember loving those war games because it was 2 rings encompassed by a couple of cages. And it was that one match, that Tower of Doom, was that where they had 3?
Oh, where they had on top of that was crazy.
Yeah,
Crazy.
Crazy days.
Since we're talking about this stuff, right? So you guys are old school. we're kind of mid-school because we're the X generation, and then we now got this new school, the millennials, and what do they call these kids now? The Z generation, the I generation. Where are we at?
But it's like Z, like there's
The zombie generation.
Yes.
All right. So, here's one of my questions, because since we're talking, right? Like,
Okay.
I'm thinking about, like, the 80s was pretty much the golden era of wrestling, right? The first one. Like the NBA had two golden eras, the 80s, 90s, and it kind of starting to slide into another one. It's like 80s were kind of the golden era. Then you had also the attitude / I'm gonna put in the John Cena's era. What's John Cena's era? Give me some ruthless aggression. I'm gonna combine them just for argument's sake. For the mid-school, we're mid-school, okay? I used to have my NWO parties, have parties for NWO and stuff like that, and swap over to. Only time I go over to WWE is when The Rock was talking and Stone Cold or D-Generation X, okay? And then we got this kind of modern wrestling, right? So, Mr. Ginzberg, since you are a historian and you're old school, because you're talking about seeing Morocco versus who did you say?
Morocco Snooker, the legendary cage match. Yeah.
You get the first word, okay?
Sure.
So, for you, what is each of these three different generations? Will you see the difference, the foundations of them, and how do you feel where wrestling is progressing from that time to how it used to be and what it is today?
I started going in '74. I'm 103 years old, and
Now you look good.
Thank you. It's Tai Chi and Qi Gong. It keeps me young. Yeah. So I started going in '74. About 10 years later, I was there at the Garden. You had Piper and Albano and Cyndi Lauper and Cyndi Lauper's manager, Dave Wolf. And, that changed everything. Piper clocks Albano with the award over his head, and that's the Rock and Wrestling. And that era I enjoyed, even though it was a little more commercial, because, again, guys like Snooker and Piper and Orton and Orndorff were unbelievable. I mean, just unbelievable. Snooker and Iron Sheik. I mean, those guys were great. But a few years later, it got very, very commercial. Everybody was a plumber, ridiculous gimmicks. And so at that point, I was going to the NWA in Philly and Baltimore. And that was the best wrestling I ever saw. Again, the Horsemen, Midnight Express, Rock and Roll Express, the Russians. I mean, it was unbelievable. They had guys like Jimmy Valiant and Superstar Billy Graham mid-card. Those were main event guys in WWF.
Right.
That's the talent they had in that. They had guys like Manny Fernandez and Rick Rude, lower to mid-card. That's the kind of talent.
Yeah. Man, people forget about the Raging Bull. He was man.
He was great. That was a great brawler. Right.
Yeah, well, let me give just a little asterisk to Manny Fernandez, because actually I worked a show with him. I just got to say this, that in the Me Too era, he's probably like, there's no reason, I don't think he's going to get invited to any conventions, or he was trying to pick up on everything in sight. Like, really, like, I mean, seriously, like, if you put a dress on a garbage can, yeah.
Sounds like Marty Jannetty.
Yeah, it was. Well, okay, I was doing a show with him and Susumi Sakai, who is just a nicest little lady in the world from Japan. She doesn't speak that much English, but his like incessant like pickup lines. It's like really, it was apparently she obviously didn't understand anything he was saying, but like he was like trying to hit on her in like this just embarrassing way, and just everyone in the back was just like going, "Oh my God, please," It's just like a 30-year age difference between us.
Oh,
it wasn't pretty. So there's a little asterisk on that.
You have to disassociate the artist from the personal.
Sometimes you do. Unless it's Buck Zumhoff, then you can do whatever you want. Buck Zumhoff.
He just did whatever he wanted.
Well, you know what he's all guilty of, right?
No.
Oh, he molested a molested his stepdaughter.
Oh no!
In jail like for the next 28 years. So someone like that, you can say anything you want about Buck Zumhofe. You're fine on that one. But you know everything. These other guys, yes, you have to be separate.
So what I'm hearing though is like the '80s too, because even though I get the Hogan ice cream bar, the ice cream bars, and the cartoons and all that stuff was cool. But I'm telling you, I just like how, because I was young, I think I was about 9, 10, 11 years old, watching wrestling in those times, being a big fan, maybe a little older, but, that's why I was a fan of the AWA, what was going on in the AWA. I was a major AWA fan.
AWA.
Oh, I loved the AWA and NWA. I was all about NWA, AWA. I love the matches, the quality matches. My most memorable match, one of my most matches, few of them, Ron Garvin, when he won the title from Ric Flair.
Wow.
Right, which was it was like a big deal, and I love that stuff. But Randy Orton does that right now, right? He took that, then he took that stuff. Always, and then of course the which I compare to today with Asuka and Ric Flair's daughter Charlotte, Ricky Dragon Steamboat versus Ric Flair. It had that same the
last name was unbelievable. Best match I ever saw live. Best match I ever saw. 35 minutes at the Meadowlands.
I can believe it.
That got me. I was a wrestling fan because of them two. And then when I'm seeing Asuka and Charlotte doing the same thing, like owning wrestling, men and women, and how they can carry it together, I'm like, oh yeah, this kind of brings me back. Like, I'm always looking for those nuggets to kind of put me back in a hot tub time machine and bring me back to the 80s and the late 90s when we used to have them NWO parties and stuff. So go ahead, keep talking. What you got, Charles?
Oh, well, we talking, man. He brought up, Vince made it commercialized for the average individual to want to watch. I love the heel in the WWE or the WWF back then. I used to call myself Mr. Wonderful. I used to walk around. I called myself Mr. Wonderful. And then, because he had the little robe on and stuff. And he had the muscle.
Great.
Yeah, I'd call myself Mr. Man. But they used to beat down on my godfather, so it was kind of taboo in the household. But I was Mr. Wonderful. But then once I started watching, once Jim Crockett came on TV, when we got that thing called Super TV where you can push a button and you got all the other channels. And I saw, I saw Magnum TA versus Ric Flair. I was hooked on Georgia Championship Wrestling.
Yeah.
And then we could get the WCCW down there, man, and saw the Von Erichs and the Freebirds. Yeah. I was hooked. And then I only watched when WrestleMania came around.
So you guys, man, we can talk about. Okay, so let's do this. Let's go to the '90s then. What do y'all think about then? We'll just talk about the '90s. Let's talk about the Attitude Era and going into the Ruthless Aggression. Since you've been around wrestling since the '70s and you've seen it for a long time, and we kind of we're coming up. Let's talk about that. How did you feel about that? We'll start with you there, Mr. Ginzberg.
I liked the Attitude Era because they brought in guys like Terry Funk, and it was wilder, and it wasn't, such a cartoon like the late 80s. The late 80s, they just wasted guys. Skinner and Repo Man. It was just silly, But the Attitude Era, at least they had some good brawling. I was going to ECW at the time more than anything out in Philly. And
I was just about to say something about ECW. I was just about to say, you jumped me to the gun there. So go ahead, talk about what do you thought about ECW?
I thought ECW was great because it was a mix. You had the wild brawls like Public Enemy and the Gangsters, and Sabu, and then you had guys who could really wrestle, like Dean the greatest ECW match ever was Eddie Guerrero and Dean Malenko. That was unbelievable. That was art. So these guys, I got bored by the time it was like the fourth flaming table. At that point it was like overkill.
Barbed wire matches.
They brought in the luchadors. They had Rey Mysterio before anybody.
Right.
WCW. I mean,
yeah.
ECW early on was great.
GPS.
All right, so welcome back. We're talking about tag teams. Like he said, some of the best tag teams were in the 90s, right?
We're in the most definitely.
I like the 80 tag teams, and I like some of the mid-teens tag teams. What do you call the 2010 to 2020? Did we say the teens? What do we say?
The odds, I thought, or
the 20 teens or the teens? You call those the teens?
The 2010s, right?
Yeah, the
2010s.
The tens, I guess.
I don't know.
Yeah, because I like the New Day and the bar was pretty cool. I like what AEW is doing. Yeah, the Usos.
Dude, I'm taking Money Inc. over those guys. Okay, I'm taking the Skyscrapers. We talked about them.
Oh, the Skyscrapers.
I think the Lucha Brothers are great. I think the Young Bucks are great. Great.
Whoa! Time out. Is the Young Bucks the best tag team in the world, like they always say every week? What do you say?
I like the Lucha Brothers better, but the Young Bucks are great.
They're okay, but no. They're like they're trying to be the Hardy Boys and not evolve. It drives me crazy.
I think if they just cut their hair to go into villain mode and super kick everybody, I mean, I'm down for that. So, but I know we were talking about, what do you guys felt about the impact of the NWO and D-Generation X? Because I like what you said about Bret Hart. And here's another thing. Do you tie Bret Hart with Shawn Michaels, or you just keep them separate?
I think they're a little bit different eras, slightly. I mean, Shawn Michaels, I think, was out for a while because of his injuries, too, the surgery.
Right.
So, Bret Hart had a more continuous stride. And Bret Hart made a bigger impact in WCW, than Shawn Michaels, who really never did anything in WCW. So,
right.
Bret Hart has two different feds that he was a big part of, as opposed to just one. So,
Well, and actually, you can say Bret Hart's best career was after he came back from his injury. He was better after he came back from that hiatus, from that loss to Stone Cold. When he came back, his best wrestling years were those years after the fact, because he wrestled clean. He didn't have that chip on his shoulder. He just had something he had something to prove, but he didn't have that. He didn't have that demon on his back. His wife had cleaned him up, and he just wanted to wrestle again. And it didn't matter if he was the man or not.
All right, well, Mr. Ginzberg, what do you think about the NWO and these factions compared to this faction thing we got going on today? We'll start with the NWO and how so many factions, because you had groups back in the day, but there's a lot of factions going on, right?
I thought the NWO was great at the beginning, but at the end, when they had 137 guys and their mothers, it was ridiculous.
Horace Boulder.
Oh.
I mean,
was Buff Bagwell.
Mother.
Buff Bagwell in anything. You hit the spot.
I mean, Virgil was a part of the NWO.
Everybody was.
I mean, geez.
And then they combined them together at the end,
They separated them, the LWO.
I've never been a Wolfpack fan, to be honest with you.
Yeah, they sucked the life out of it by the end. It was overkill.
Okay.
But
Yeah,
at the beginning, it was
we had
great. At the
the
beginning.
Nation of Domination, which and they also, when they overexpanded to Generation X, and
Right.
put everyone into that. There's always this sort of thing that when you have a faction that's doing well, to keep it to a manageable size. That's one thing you've got to say worked to the advantage of the Heenan family. Is that Bobby Heenan never had so many guys that he was working with that he didn't know how to use them effectively.
Right.
I think the Heenan family gets they don't get enough clout for how good they were because they always lost. You know what I'm saying? But those were, man, the Heenan family had a plethora of great talents.
Oh, so, yeah.
Yeah.
Andre the Giant to, the Brain Busters.
The Brain Busters. He had Kurt. He had Haku. Who else did he, man?
Harley Race. I think
he had Harley Race for a little bit.
Yes.
What were you saying there, Evan?
King Kong Bundy.
King Kong.
And Big John Stud.
I thought Big John Stud was I liked the Big John Stud.
Those guys are guys that I wish had held the belts for a little while.
I'll take that, Mr. Ginzberg. Then since you don't like when people overcrowd like the NWO did at the end, I take you're not a big fan of Retribution right now, right?
I honestly haven't watched. I haven't watched much WWE this whole year. I mean,
you too?
Yeah, with the COVID and the no crowds, no fans, it's very antiseptic. I don't enjoy it.
Mm-hmm. Talk about it. Talk about that.
Yeah,
Because I know we was talking about it when we were just kind of getting to know each other last night, and we just went on this tangent about WWE because Russell didn't like WWE at all, and I want to pre-warn you there, Evan, that Charles is a WWE apologist a little bit, and I'm I like the AEW for a lot of reasons. One, it just brings competition back to the market. Okay. Right. And now the WWE actually have to be on top of their game with all this bad booking and horrible Raw that we've been watching for the last. Will you say how long it's been going?
This whole year?
Decade.
5 years, 10 years?
I'd say decade almost.
I can't say 5 or 10 years. Come on.
You think about that.
Slide.
So 2.5 years.
Raw is punishment for sins I committed in previous lifetimes. Raw is like a.
Let's maybe make the demarcation the Bobby Lashley wedding. Let's maybe make that the.
That was painful.
That might be, to me, the stopping point where I said I can't watch it on a regular basis anymore.
I can agree with that. But see, here's my deal. I said this a long time ago. I told Dre this. Raw is a TV show about wrestling. SmackDown is a wrestling show on TV. And NXT is your indie show on TV. But you can't, Raw is like Vince McMahon's I want to make a soap opera on TV my way, regardless of what you say.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
So we always hold all of WWE's lows on Raw.
It's bad. It's really bad, and it's 3 hours long.
But it can't overshadow how good NXT and SmackDown is.
NXT's excellent, but Raw is 3 hours of my life I'll never get back. I can't watch it anymore.
Hold on. Why do you feel that passionate about that? What's your reasons behind that?
Because in a 3 hour Raw, between the commercials, the endless commercials that interrupt the matches no less, the comedy that isn't funny, which is a unique genre unto itself, the build up to pay-per-views that are utterly meaningless, maybe you get 20 or 30 minutes of good wrestling. I'd rather exercise or watch a good movie or work on a project. It's 3 hours for basically 20 or 30 minutes of good wrestling.
Well, what about you there, buddy?
I agree a lot. I mean, when you were younger, you were able to watch an entire match between commercials. You didn't have commercials actually interrupting the match and putting the match to one side while you had a commercial running at the same time. Okay? Right. That you had 5-minute promos and 20-minute matches. Now you have 20-minute promos and 5-minute matches. Plus,
And-
they'll show you what they just showed you, like to fill in 3 hours. One of the things I think is a big thing is when I was younger, you know, and when I was a kid, the 80s kind of thing, finding wrestling was a chore. It was not easy to do. You knew that you had it on Saturdays with Mid-South and Georgia Championship, and then that morphed into WCW, you know, whatever. And you had Tuesday Night Titans back in the day, which then turned into, you know, Monday night, you know, main event and primetime wrestling, then turned into Monday Night Raw. But that was it, really. That you really, and then you sometimes. Then the big deal was they had wrestling Saturday nights on after Wally George, after the Wally George show. I don't know if you remember
That's a
Wally
West
George at all.
I lived on the East Coast, and so
Yeah, he was a West Coast phenomenon.
Yeah,
He was, a guy that was one of the first like Jerry Springer type thing. He had a Klansman on his show, and everybody went nuts and started throwing chairs and stuff like that. So get all riled up for Wally George, and then it would go into wrestling, and we would just be in just this, you know, caffeine, like Jolt Cola fueled, Oreo fueled, like, you know, fury, like, you know, on Saturday nights because. But that wrestling was appointment television, and it was something that you looked forward to because there was so little of it. You treasured what there was.
You treasure every little bit of it.
Even if it was like Salvatore Bellomo against the Spoiler, you knew that the Spoiler would beat Salvatore Bellomo in like a minute and a half. You know, you still treasured it because it was the only wrestling you could see.
right.
Now when you have wrestling on almost every single day of the week for 3 2-hour shows or what have you, plus WrestleMania, which is like an 8-hour ordeal if you add in the pre-show to it. Out of freaking control. You can't creatively entertain for 8 hours. Forget it.
Numb by the end, numb.
The entire world tries to entertain you for 8 freaking hours.
Well,
What?
Okay, so and because I want to make sure we get to 350 days. And my big deal is booking. Bad, terrible writing, booking, horrible. SmackDown's great. It's fine. It has its bad moments, but they usually make it up. And then NXT is awesome. AEW. No, wait a minute, buddy. We were talking about a point about AEW, right? And then Charles, you chime in on this. I like what you said about AEW compared to what's going on with WWE and what's the difference with AEW. Remember that there, buddy?
Yeah.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, you talking to Russell?
No, I'm talking to Buddy Russell. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's a huge difference in the way that the WWE is used to working for big crowds, and the workers, the performers there, are shell shocked, working in front of nobody basically.
I'm doing
As opposed to AEW. Hi there.
Say hello.
Hi.
Say hi. This is my baby
I
Phoenix.
get to bed, but you're getting extra time.
Yeah, this is my baby Phoenix. Go down with mama. Okay, go watch the movie. Okay, y'all go on in the room.
I remember when my kids were little. Anyway, getting back to my point is that the AEW guys have been used to working smaller shows for a while, and so working in front of their friends and the set workers and all of that stuff, I think that they've done a good job of acting like that's normal for them. And they're not like The Undertaker when you were watching him work in front of, basically nobody. He just looked like, it was like, what am I doing here? Why am I doing this? And I don't like the Thunderdome. I'd rather just have the to me is too weird. Like, I don't know if you've ever watched Robot Chicken.
That's that remember Celebrity Deathmatch?
Yes.
That's Vince McMahon's Celebrity Deathmatch. But have you seen the CWC arena?
No, I haven't.
NXT took the championship. He took the old Vince Senior's name and made an arena. They went and got an arena and named it the CWC Arena for NXT, where fans can come and they're in pods and you can watch wrestling, and they got fans there. So
AEW's got fans too now, so yeah. So okay, so let's shift a little bit here, because I know it's getting late. Let's shift a little bit. Mr. Ginzberg, would you please talk more about your 350 days wrestling documentary? Good stuff. I'll ask you in a street way. What did you have to do with you? How did you get that together?
Well, I had done The Wrestler for Darren Aronofsky, and a couple of years went by, and a different Darren Antola, contacted me about 350 days, and at first I really wasn't convinced, because I'm like, how are you going to top The Wrestler? You know,
right.
We're sitting at the New York Film Festival, sold out, 2,300 people for The Wrestler, and the movie ends and there's a spontaneous standing ovation, and it's hard to top. It's hard to top experiences like that. But a couple years go by, and Darren Antola says to me, you know, he was an 80s fan like you guys, and he loved, you know, the same guys that we were talking about before. And he's blue collar guy, not a big budget behind it, and he really believed in it and sacrificed. And he sold me on it, and I said, sure, I'll help you any way I can. So they hired me as associate producer, and The Wrestler took 7 years to make. 350 Days took 6 years to make. People have no idea.
Wow.
No idea what goes into a movie. There's a dozen or so guys in 350 Days who are dead now. I mean, that's how long this process was.
I saw that.
Yeah, George the Animal Steel, Ox Baker, Larry Sharp, Don Fargo. I could go on and on. I mean, Don Leo Jonathan. These guys are all gone. The Wolfman.
So how did you? I mean, so when y'all went through this, and did y'all just say, let's find whoever we can get to do this, or did you have a specific type of individuals to speak with?
The goal was basically 70s and 80s guys, because that's who we grew up on, and
the foundational wrestlers.
Yeah, you know, the old school guys, and we billed Billy Graham and Bret Hart as the stars, but you know, DiBiase and Orndorff and Valentine. I mean, these guys are all great in there, and you know, it's like a who's who. We have 36 legends in there.
Right. Was there anyone that you wanted to get and you just couldn't get them?
Piper. Yeah, it just didn't work out logistically. Piper was 3,000 miles away, and he was busy, and
he died.
It's hard to get a good interview when somebody dies.
Right.
I love Piper. I mean,
that would have been good. That would have been.
I met Piper once, and I told him, I'm a fan of your movies. I've seen Jungle Ground and Hell Comes to Frogtown. He looked at me straight in the eyes and he said, son, you're a bigger fan of my movies than I am.
Yeah.
With the glasses, he sees the aliens.
Yeah, they live.
They live.
They live. That's it.
Yeah.
But if you've seen Hell Comes to Frogtown, you've seen one of the worst movies of all time. Crazy. No question about it. No question about it.
So
they all made some bad ones in the time. But so, all right. So so tell me, because I was talking to Russell about this. What was your get between? Because it seemed like, and I was telling him, it seemed like Ox Baker and superstar Billy Graham totally viewed wrestling differently. There was this a mood of emotion from one or the other, and I never got that from superstar Billy. Well, I never knew him, but from what you would see, it looked like he loved what he was doing. But when you saw the interview, it just seemed like he kind of reminded me of Lex Luger. You know, he was just there to work.
Billy Graham, had a tough life. You know, he when he came back in the early '80s with the karate gimmick, he was going through a drug problem, and even body-wise, he didn't look the same. He wasn't really the same guy from the '70s at his peak, and you know, he has some bad blood towards Vince, as he said publicly many times, and you know, he has mixed emotions about it all, but you know, at the end of the movie, he said, if I had it all to do again, I'd do it all over again. So
that was crazy.
Yeah. It's and for those who don't know, it's called 350 days because some of these guys, like let's say a Ric Flair, literally work 350 days a year.
Yes.
Bret Hart said to the crew he worked 336. Greg Valentine told me personally he worked 320. So imagine the toll that takes. You're away from your kids, away from your wife. You're working Starcade on Christmas. You're working Survivor Series on Thanksgiving or whatnot. Sorry, kids, Dad's not coming home for Christmas or Thanksgiving or your wedding or your graduation or your football game or whatnot.
And you're still not an employee.
Yeah, and you still don't have health benefits.
You don't have
pensions or 401ks.
Right, and that's what Tony Khan is talking about, trying to bring that to wrestling, is unionizing and trying to get benefits. And who was that politician?
Yang.
Huh?
Andrew Yang.
Yes. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I don't see why they shouldn't be considered screen actors if they're not employees and they're not athletes, because you call them entertainers and it's World Wrestling Entertainment, you know, but somehow they're essential employees. So they could wrestle in Florida when all of the businesses were shut down. So somehow they're not they're employees, but they're not employees. But then Vince can tell them that they can't have any conversations or publish anything on Twitter or publish anything on social media. So they are employees, but they're not. So just what the hell are they? You know?
And this is what I keep saying, and this has always been my gripe, is that Vince, he stepped out of the carnival phase of wrestling, but he tried to keep the rules of the carnival.
Yeah.
And he's trying to have his cake and eat it too. And
it ain't working.
I'm telling you that his biggest claim to fame is going to be what bites him in his butt, because sooner or later, the people that bought those shares are going to vote him out in a no contest, because you just can't continue to do this. You know, He's bringing them money. He's finding ways to get everybody paid, because I have a few shares. My vote don't count, but I have a few shares. But he's really killing it because he can't let go of the I know what's best.
Right, and that's the thing we're talking about, is I know what's best, but people spitting that crap out because the thing is about the psychology piece. You know, and I was talking about this before, it's like UFC changed the ball game on everything, combat sports, when UFC came up. And now people want reality. I was talking about how CM Punk put the mic bomb out there. Now everybody wants, you know, now we're talking about actual married couples who are actually married in wrestling now. You know, well, you didn't have that talk, you know. You didn't know who was dating who in the back scene, you know, and behind the thing. And so the world has changed, and unfortunately, I just don't think he can change with it. So that's why Triple H better him get a hold of that company, because AEW is coming at him with full pocket of money at TNT. You got NWA making another coming. Impact is coming out of ashes like Phoenix. You know, New Japan is trying to go to LA and Europe, and they, you know, I'm just like, this is going to be good for us.
So, but before we go, I got one question for you, Evan.
Sure.
Who was the wrestler the movie patterned after? I gotta know.
It wasn't one particular guy, honestly. I mean, people have these weird, you know, it was Hulk Hogan. No. there were 6 or 7 scripts from start to finish, revisions. Mickey Rourke spent a lot of time with Greg Valentine. People aren't aware of that.
But you can tell.
So if anybody had an influence on Mickey's character, I would say it was Greg, but the script wasn't based on any one guy. It was just a composite. I mean, you know, I personally knew guys who headlined Madison Square Garden, never broke $100,000, ended up pushing a broom, ended up bouncing at a strip club or whatnot. You know, this is what we're talking about. No pensions, no benefits. Some of these guys did not end up well. So it's really more a composite, honestly. I mean, I have nothing to hide. It wasn't.
Oh, no, I just wanted to know. I've heard so many different, you know, off the internet and stuff, but I have someone who's in the know. I just wanted to know who.
Yeah, honestly, I would say the most influential guy was Valentine. That's who Mickey spent a lot of time with. Yeah.
The truth is, when I saw The Wrestler, I just thought about my own independent experience. I was making a freaking checklist of like, oh yeah, I know a wrestler who slept in his van. I know a wrestler who, you know, took the steroids in the locker room. I know a wrestler who did this. You know, and to me, as you said, it's a composite. I think everyone who's worked the indies enough time has seen all of what's happened in The Wrestler.
Wow.
Well, for 6 months leading up to our filming, we filmed it in 35 days, 7 5-day weeks. But in the 6 months prior, I took Darren Aronofsky pretty much every weekend, him and the main crew guys, to indie shows, Ring of Honor, you know, little, you know, rinky-dink little indie shows also, and, you know, no budget, you know, there's 20 guys in the audience. And that the scene where, you know, Mickey is signing autographs and there's nobody there, I'll give you the quick backstory on that. I took Darren to a convention, and there was Moolah, Mae Young, Johnny Valiant, Iron Sheik, Nikolai, all the old school guys, and there was nobody there. It was really bad. It was painful. And Darren kept saying to me, where is everybody? Where is everybody? These were the biggest names in history. And Iron Sheik's head was down on the table sleeping. That's how dead it was. It was grim. It was grim.
Wow.
And that was written into the script. And I'm on set the day they're filming it, and Darren gets this smirk, and he looks at me. He goes, "Evan, come here." And I'm like, "What?" You know. So I go over. He goes, "Evan, I want you to work the scene. Walk up to Mickey last, ask him for an autograph and a Polaroid." So Mickey just whispers in my ear. He goes, "Improv it." Like he thinks I'm an actor. I'm not an actor. So I do exactly what Aronofsky says. I'm walking over to Mickey last, and I'm thinking, like, what should I say? Because it's unscripted. This was totally unscripted. So I go, "I loved you as a kid. I saw you at the Garden, Madison Square Garden. Could I have your autograph?" Which is what I would say to like any legend. So he looks at me and he goes, "What's your name?" Now I'm thinking, I just go, "Evan." And I say, "This is surreal. I'm playing myself in a fictional movie." Yeah, true story. And yeah, it was a great experience. And am I allowed to curse on your show?
Well, we try to do a clean show.
Okay, then I won't. But at the rap party, Aronofsky's making a speech, and he goes, "I don't know what we have, but we have something." Okay?
And you did.
Yeah, and the rest is pretty much history. I mean, like I said, Mickey won the Golden Globe, and he was up for best actor at the Oscars. It doesn't get much bigger. So
on a movie about wrestling,
and he played Whiplash on Iron Man 2.
Well, the interesting part about that is, you know, none of us made big money for The Wrestler. It was a $6 million movie. It was basically an indie film. Right. He got $1 million for Iron Man 2. That was really his payoff. That was his payoff. And
that was his big thing. Well, let me ask you a question. Since we do got to kind of close, let me ask you a question. This is time for you guys to talk about your show real quick and your future project. What are you getting into since you did those projects? What are you doing in your future? And then, Buddy, go ahead and plug in your show, Coast to Coast.
Okay, well, yeah. It's something that Evan. I've been a guest on Evan's show. Evan's had a wrestling talk show for more years than he would care to admit.
Fountain of Youth. You know what? You found the Lazarus Pit, didn't you?
Yeah.
Sure did.
Yeah. He's got a portrait of himself in the back there.
Right.
He keeps getting older. But anyway, we've been talking. I've been a guest on his show, and we've been bantering back and forth that we should do like a Coast to Coast wrestling show for years. It only took a major apocalypse and the COVID crisis to make us both like housebound long enough that we're like, let's go ahead and do it instead of just talking about it. Let's actually do the show. And so, the growth of Zoom and Skype, which is how I record it, has made everything easy enough to do. And I have had we've done about 30 shows, and I've had an absolute blast. Evan has done the yeoman's work of booking most of the shows. But I've been able to bring in a lot of my friends and people that I've had as talent in Northern California. And I've loved every show. And I've asked people stuff that I've wanted to ask them for years when I worked with them, and I never asked them these questions. So it's
awesome.
Yeah, now I'm getting a chance to finally ask and get the answers that I've been looking for about wrestling that have always been in the back of my mind.
Straight beautiful, man. You know
Can I
what?
get one more question, Dre, before we close it out?
Let Evan talk about his
Evan, I want to talk more. Any future film projects for the great producer on this show?
Thank you. Well, with the COVID, things are kind of on pause, but right now I'm finishing a book. It's a short story collection. It's called Wrestling Rings, Blackboards, and Movie Sets. Because I basically spent my life in wrestling, in teaching, and making movies, at various points of my life. And basically it's 60 or 70 very short stories. And there's never been a wrestling related book quite like it. For example, one of my promoter friends died in a welfare hotel. And I would, really stories that, this isn't like who was the booker in Chattanooga in 1972. This is a different kind of wrestling book. I'm like 5 minutes before a radio show, and I get a call that Nikolai died. He was my buddy, and so what's it like to do a radio show? The show must go on right after you hear that a dear friend has passed. And
wow.
I mean, it's not all grim, believe me. There's some funny stories. I'm on a bus in LA. I was an agent in wrestling, and I booked these guys for autograph appearances. So I'm on a bus in LA, and this woman comes on the bus, and she goes, "You're Nikolai Volkov." And Nikolai was the nicest guy. "Yes, very nice to meet you. And this is my partner, the Iron Sheik." And this, he points to the Iron Sheik, seriously. And she looks at the Iron Sheik, and she looks at Nikolai, and she goes, "That's not the Iron Sheik." And he got really pissed. He's like, "Get out of here, you jabroni," So, I mean, just crazy stories. I'd wake up in a hotel 6 a.m, and Nikolai would be doing 300 push-ups on these old school blocks that he had carved in the old country. And he goes, "Evan, let's arm wrestle." So I'm like, "Okay, Nikolai." And I'm 6'2", 215. I'm not a 98-pound weakling. I couldn't move this guy 1 inch. That's how powerful this guy was.
Oh, wow.
Not 1 inch. I mean, he used to crush fruit with his bare hands.
Oh.
They could explode in the old days on TV.
That sounds like some good old bedtime stories for us grown wrestling fans.
This whole book is like very short stories, anecdotes, vignettes, but different. I mean, it's not like an obsessive let's talk about this angle from 40 years ago. It's not that kind of book.
Yeah, you talking about
Very
real
human.
actual,
I've
From
had
the
a-
heart. Yeah.
real actual stories from the heart and things that happen behind, like real true stuff. You know.
Oh, these guys were my friends, and I was on the road with them doing autograph appearances, and
Wow.
these guys like Johnny Valiant, for example, he wrestled for oil sheiks 3 a.m. in the Middle East. He looked out at the crowd. It was no women and just oil sheiks 3 a.m. How surreal!
Wow, that's
Like, these guys had crazy adventures, you know, and I tell some of these stories in the book.
Well, you know, I'm gonna tell you, it's a great honor to hear these stories and your experience.
Oh, thanks so much.
And Buddy, it's also
Come on our show. We'll do it.
Yeah, we'll have you as guests for sure.
Oh man, listen, we could talk for like a couple hours. Like,
Well, we got a 1 hour time limit on our show.
I know. I'm sorry. I have to cut this off because we'll just keep going and going because this is great stuff. Because personally, we're that mid-age, so it's good when you hear those who have that experience from the foundational pieces and all the back-end stories and things you just don't get to hear a lot. And to me, it's an honor to have you guys on the show, Buddy, with all your managing experience, and you got a trillion stories, and you're just an amazing dude. And Evan, I don't even know what to say, Mr. Ginzberg. I'm gonna call you Mr. Ginzberg because it's very honorable to have you here on our show, and success to you both for your future endeavors. And we'll talk about how we can get WWE right again.
Yeah,
that'll be an ongoing thing.
That's a 4-hour show.
That's a 4-hour show.
Yeah,
4-hour show.
You know, I love me some WWE, but there's an issue.
Okay, all right.
I think you're honest about it, Charles. I think
he's honest.
You may apologize for it, but I think you're honest. We have other guys that we know who aren't as apologetic about it.
Well, I'm saying the proof is in the pudding. You can see what's wrong and you can see what's right.
There are some fanboys who can't. There's some fanboys who cannot see what's wrong.
You're right, and I agree with you on there.
I'll tell you something interesting.
The only thing I'm not objective is that LeBron James isn't the GOAT.
I was in Korea last year with my wife. I turned on WWE TV, and they treat it with a whole different respect. There's a lot of commercials before the match. Then you see the full match. Then you see a lot of commercials after the match. And you enjoy the match. You see, without it being chopped into pieces.
Oh, man, see, now we're going to get, okay, I got to cut the show because now that makes me mad. Why do they get to have that over there? We got to go through all this.
Because they respect the audience. They want the audience to enjoy the show.
One day we'll have to do the show live in Korea. That's it.
That's what we got. Yeah. Hey, listen, it was great talking to you guys. What an honor, man. We just made some new friends. So I thank y'all very much. Coast to Coast people, check it out.
Check it out.
Oh, your platforms, you want to go ahead and tell how to
Yeah, all you have to do is tell your smart speaker to play wrestling and everything Coast to Coast with hosts Buddy Sotello and Evan Ginzberg. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Facebook. We're all over the place. So find us, listen to us. Love to hear you. Love to have those clicks.
Hey, that's what I'm talking about. Same here. And listen, check out grownfolkskidshow.com. We got a podcast, vidcast, TV show, local channel 14. And then listen, we're just 4 grown men keeping the kid.
Keeping the kid.
And then Charles, you want to go ahead and lead us out?
Well, you know how it goes. We just keeping the kid. Peace out. Together.
Not apart.